Werewolves, fictional mythical creatures brought to life only by stories and film, or a real-life hideous beast that lurks in the shadowy woods. Werewolf accusations were not entirely uncommon in Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries. Werewolf and witch hysteria sort of developed in tandem actually, and some people were even accused of both at the same time. However, reports in our modern day still surface frequently with terrifying accounts and even reported deaths from this urban legend. Truth or fiction? I'll let you guys decide as we delve into the following 3 stories. Hello, I hope you guys are well, and if you are new then welcome and please make yourself at home. My name is Morgan and this channel is storytelling of the disturbing, mysterious and supernatural. So if this kind of content is your thing, then don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. But for now, grab a cup of tea and get cozy as we jump into today's video. But viewer beware, because after this video you may not want to walk alone in the woods again. At around 9 AM on the morning of December the 2nd, 2020, Christopher Allen Whiteley left his girlfriend's house near the small town of Lipan in rural Hood County, about an hour's drive southwest of Fort Worth. The 28-year-old had spent much of his adult life in prison, serving time for aggravated assault, struggling with an addiction to methamphetamine, and had never learnt to drive, which was why on that morning he took a shortcut through dense brush to get to Howell Road to hitchhike his way to work where he painted houses. However, he never made it to work that day. Concerned, the next day a friend of Christopher's filed a missing persons report, and on December the 3rd, as the sun was setting, Hood County Sheriff's Department searched the woods between his girlfriend's house and Howell Road. As they combed the area, they came across Christopher's backpack lying under a cedar tree, and then they spotted something else. Just 15 feet away was Christopher's body. Lieutenant Johnny Rose, one of the on-scene investigators and the spokesperson for the sheriff's office, said that it was a miracle that their deputies found him because the brush was so dense that his body was almost hidden from sight. Hood County Justice of the Peace Catherine Gwynn arrived on the scene to determine the cause of death, but what she discovered was unnerving even to her. Christopher's throat was torn open, from under one ear to the other. Small, thin scratches marked his torso, forehead, and one side of his face. Even stranger was that he was shirtless, despite the weather having been cold at the time. The scene just didn't make any sense, and they couldn't determine what exactly had happened. Like most small counties, Hood County didn't have its own medical examiner, so Catherine Gwynn called the ME's office in nearby Tarrant County for help. Up until that point, the sheriff's office was still treating the area where Christopher's body was found as a potential crime scene. But then Hood County Sheriff's Office sent out a press release with the headline stating, "Mountain Lion Attack Leaves Man Dead." The release further stated that the Sheriff's Office, game wardens, and a trapper within the US Department of Agriculture were all searching for the offending animal, and for the public to stay clear of the area being actively worked by officials. As soon as the news and media heard about the incident though, they quickly ran with the story of Texas's first confirmed fatal mountain lion attack. However, mountain lions are known to have killed fewer than 30 humans in US history, with most cases in the Mountain West and California. It has never been recorded in Texas that anyone has been killed by one. The medical examiner's autopsy report had prompted them to go public with the theory. According to the deputy medical examiner who signed off on the document, the punctures and lacerations on his neck were consistent with that of a large cat. However, while the news was rife with the story, Sheriff Roger Deeds turned to specialists for help with the investigation. One of the first was Britton Stuckey, a Hood County game warden, who went to the scene the day after Christopher Whiteley's body was found to look for evidence. In his site report, Britton Stuckey wrote that he found no evidence of a mountain lion attack. The usual telltale signs were all absent. There were no lion prints, feces, or territorial scrapes, small mounds of debris that lions pile up and mark with urine at most kill sites. He He took photos that documented what he found, or the lack thereof. Texas Parks and Wildlife sent 2 of its biologists to visit the site on Saturday the 5th of December, just 2 days after Christopher's body had been discovered. They were also joined by Mike Bodenchuk, an experienced mountain lion trapper and director of Wildlife Services Texas, division of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Jonah Evans, the then mammologist, I think I said that right, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department had seen the photos of the scene and believed there was no way that a mountain lion had killed Christopher Whiteley. He was an expert in animal tracking who had seen hundreds of mountain lion kill sites in person and in photos, and was tasked with leading Texas Parks and Wildlife Department's effort to assist the sheriff's investigation. He stated that some of the distinctive markers of a mountain lion attack, which include clear marks from canine teeth and missing organs from the abdomen, were not evident on this case. There were also no lion tracks in the sandy soil. Mike Bodenchuk, when arriving at the scene, started at the dense thicket where sheriff's deputies first found Christopher's body, and then worked his way outward, looking for anything that would tell him further information about what had attacked and killed the young man. But strangely, the only animal tracks he found within 150 yards were those of coyotes, deers, hogs, house cats, and dogs. As he finished his investigation of the scene, Mike Bodenchuk concluded that it was also clear to him too that a mountain lion did not attack Whiteley. 2 days after his visit to examine the scene at Howell Road, Mike Bodenchuk went to the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office in Fort Worth. He wanted to show the room of medical examiners and other personnel from the office why he had confidently ruled out an attack by a mountain lion. In his hands, he held a mountain lion's skull to show exactly what he meant. First of all, mountain lions kill their prey by stalking it, and then attacking from behind. The cat will jump on its prey's back, digging its claws into the flesh while latching onto the neck and throat with its teeth. It uses its strong jaws to crush the windpipe, killing by asphyxiation. With a lion's small but powerful jaw, the bite marks are almost dainty, usually consisting of 2 puncture marks on each side of the throat, with minimal blood. They crush rather than tear major arteries. Then, hours after the kill, the lion will return to feed on its prey. Christopher Whiteley's throat, however, had been torn wide open. He had died of blood loss, and the scratches on his body were superficial, bearing none of the puncture wounds that would come with a lion latching its large, curved claws into flesh. There were no signs his body had been fed upon either. Lions also tend to leave behind significant signs of struggle with their prey, such as disturbed leaves, broken twigs, and distinctive tracks. But the scene where the body was found was hardly disturbed. There was also no evidence that the lion returned to feed. Game cameras had also been installed around the site in hopes of capturing the big cat on film. However, the cameras showed nothing more than photos of cows, deers, hogs, and a bobcat. Mike Bodenchuk concluded that an animal may very well have killed Christopher Whiteley, but it was definitely no lion, and without being able to examine Whiteley's trachea, which had been removed from his body by the medical examiner's office, he was unable to offer a more definitive analysis. The following month, at the end of January, the Hood County Sheriff's Office wrote in a press release that it was closing its investigation into Christopher Whiteley's death. The conclusion being that they agreed with the medical examiners that the man's death was due to an accident, and that meth had been found in Christopher Whiteley's system. The reference to an animal attack had been completely dropped, and since there were no signs of foul play in Whiteley's death, that was that. Case closed. The sheriff's office was quick to point out that because fatal mountain lion attacks are so rare, there are few people who have first-hand experience investigating them. However, though, Jim Vaught, a trapper from New Mexico, was among the few to have investigated a fatal mountain lion attack on a human, and he was also sure that Christopher Whiteley had not been killed by a mountain lion. There's also the fact that the blood evidence showed that he was attacked while he was standing up. It wasn't something where he was lying down, passed out, or asleep or whatever. He was standing when he was attacked. Christopher's fatal injuries are consistent with an animal ripping out someone's throat. But if a mountain lion didn't kill Whiteley, what, if anything or anyone, did? There is speculation that perhaps the animal in question is in fact a werewolf or werewolves. DNA testing could have given better insight into this question, but no test was ever ordered by the sheriff's office. Why? Without a request to collect DNA, the Tarrant County medical examiners followed standard procedure, which was washing the body shortly after the autopsy, effectively eliminating potential DNA evidence. A startling decision since the cause of death had not yet been determined. The sheriff's office did send Whiteley's fingernail clippings to a USDA laboratory to search for any traces of mountain lion DNA, but the test came back negative. The lab also tested 2 hairs removed from Christopher Whiteley's clothes, which were determined to be from a dog. Christopher's mother, Kimberly Spurrell, says that small dogs lived at a mobile home in Dublin where he sometimes stayed, so that could account for the hairs. Christopher's family and friends may never know exactly what happened that December night, but they're confident there's more to the story than a big cat being the culprit. In the few months before his death, Christopher's life had been looking up. Though he'd spent much of his adult life behind bars, on June 3rd he was released after being served a 5-year sentence for aggravated assault. Before he went to jail, I was scared, Christopher's mother had said, both for his health and his future. Her son's meth use severely damaged his teeth and gums and had made him hot-tempered and unpredictable. But when he'd walked out of the correctional centre that summer, he had a new set of teeth and a fresh outlook on life. Shortly after his release, a friend helped him land a job in August, and he juggled this part-time work with his house painting job. With the money he'd earned, he'd finally bought the car he had always wanted, and he had a friend and his mum who were going to help teach him how to drive. But the lack of answers to what had happened to him are a hard pill to swallow. What killed Christopher, and why were the authorities so quick to dismiss and close the case? Was it because of his past as an ex-con, or is there something they're not wanting to tell people? On February the 15th, 2019, 77-year-old Brenda Hamilton was out for her usual sunrise walk in the Pantago community, about 135 miles east of Raleigh. But little did she know that this walk would be her last. Neighbours told investigators they were awakened by their dogs barking by the end of the road, and investigated further to be confronted with the gruesome sight of Brenda Hamilton lying in a ditch, submerged up to her shoulders in water. EMS personnel arrived to find Brenda suffering from catastrophic injuries to both arms, legs, and her scalp. A considerable amount of blood was also found on the road, leading investigators to where she was found lying in the ditch. She died of injuries days later in hospital. Her attack on that fateful day at 5:30 a.m. was blamed on a pack of dogs by authorities. However, the exact culprit couldn't be named, and this is where things get a little bit weird. At the time of finding Brenda Hamilton, investigators reported taking 14 DNA samples from pet dogs in the immediate area, but found no match. The commission then asked the University of Florida's experts to determine the species that attacked Hamilton and generate a profile if her killer was found to be a dog or dogs. Among the report's conclusions were that the DNA evidence pointed to domestic dogs. However, there was no solid evidence linking the attack to specific dogs in the area. There was also no evidence the attack involved bears, wildcats, or other species of canine, like coyotes, wolves, or foxes. The conclusions were based on the currently available data and are subject to change if new data becomes available. So basically, an inconclusive result. The severity of her injuries and the inability to name the culprits at the time of the investigation led to speculation in the community, including talk of hybrid wolves or panthers. However, there are no panthers, pumas, or mountain lions in North Carolina according to the state. Medical examiner Anne-Marie Clark of the University of Florida Veterinary Forensic Laboratory said, "It is my opinion that Mrs. Hamilton was attacked by dogs. This based on the physical blood splatter and DNA evidence. Based on the amount of physical damage caused to Mrs. Hamilton, it was probably multiple dogs, probably 50 or more pounds. I cannot speculate on where the dogs came from or if they were pets or ferals," she said. However, Beaufort County Commissioner Hood Richardson didn't agree with the statement, saying, "My opinion is it's not a pack of domestic dogs, because they sampled every dog in like a mile or a mile and a half of that, and the results say all of the dogs that were sampled, none of them were the ones that attacked Brenda Hamilton." Despite all of the evidence, the lack of clarity on the attack led the county voting to consult a third-party DNA expert. They also collaborated with Fish and Wildlife Services to analyze the hairs and fibers collected from the attack, and a medical examiner from the Veterinary Forensic Laboratory did the post-mortem examination. The community were eager to get to the bottom of this and find out what had brutally mauled their neighbour. Over the course of the next few weeks, 85 samples from local dogs were collected to be compared to the evidence from the scene, but none were determined to be a match. The evidence was concluded to be canine in nature, however, that didn't clear up the mystery, and they couldn't even narrow down what kind of canine it might be, which was even stranger. How, despite all these measures being taken, were they not able to determine what kind of animal attacked Brenda? Several years on, and authorities still don't know what type of animal was responsible for Brenda Hamilton's death, despite the amount of evidence they secured at the scene. With no conclusive answers, some are speculating the reason the DNA couldn't be definitively determined was because the attack was committed by a werewolf, or possibly several werewolves. Our last story is not one of death, but of so many sightings that it's hard to not believe. The Beast of Bray Road has become a staple part of Wisconsin folklore and has been the subject of multiple books, documentaries, and a 2005 horror film. Described by witnesses as large, between 6 to 7 feet tall, with a humanoid-style body covered in fur or hair, and with a head resembling a wolf and large glowing or orange eyes. It is said to have been seen moving as both on all fours and also walking upright like a human, with some reports describing it more closely to resembling a traditional werewolf or Bigfoot. It was first named for the rural farm road in which it was first apparently sighted, which was back in 1936. Then, during the 1980s and 90s, several witnesses reported the beast had made contact with their vehicles, leaving long scratch marks on doors and trunks of vehicles. One of these accounts happened on October the 31st, 1999. A young woman named Dorothy Gibson was driving along Bray Road near the town of Delavan. She came to the intersection of Bray Road and Hospital Road. While searching for a radio station on her car stereo, she suddenly felt a jolt as her right front tire jumped off of the ground. Scared that she had hit an animal, she stopped the car to get out and investigate. Much to her relief, she didn't find anything and put it down to a bump in the road or a pothole. However, as she was making her way back to the car, something caught her attention as she glanced at the dark roadside. From out of the shadows came a huge, hairy form lunging towards her. Terrified at what she was seeing, she jumped back into the car just as the creature jumped onto the trunk of her car. She hit the accelerator and sped away, with the creature slipping off the back and crashing onto the pavement. But this hairy beast isn't just skulking around at dusk or during the night, because sightings have also been reported during daylight hours. In fact, several witnesses said they saw an unusually large wolf-like creature running on all fours through cornfields. One of these witnesses said the creature was in pursuit of a deer. Add to this that animal mutilations have also been reported in the area around Bray Road, with partially eaten deer and livestock being killed. Even more disturbing is that specific organs have been removed from the animal carcasses. Another witness who was driving down Bray Road late one night observed an unusually large wolf-like creature eating an animal which had been hit by a car on the side of the road. The creature reportedly ran into the woods as the eyewitness approached it in their vehicle. Because of the number of werewolf sightings in the Bray Road area during the 1980s and 90s, it prompted a local newspaper, the Walworth County Week, to assign a reporter to actually cover the story. Reporter Linda Godfrey was initially skeptical of the so-called werewolf. However, she later became convinced of the sincerity of many witnesses, and her series of articles later became a book titled The Beast of Bray Road, Tailing Wisconsin's Werewolf. But there have also been more recent sightings. In February 2018 and July 2020, witnesses reported seeing a large, hair-covered, upright creature in Spring Prairie and Lyons, both in Woolworth County. One of these reports came from Ron Rice. Ron travels to the town of Lyons for work, where he drops off fertilizer at a farm on Highway 36 just west of Church Road. It was a routine drop-off in broad daylight on this particular day in May, where Ron had his truck loaded with fertilizer. Just 150 feet away from his truck were deep woods, and as he looked up at one point and into the distance, a figure caught his eye. Ron would later report that this thing was huge. It was over 7 feet tall. It was brown and hairy with coarse hair. It walked out and picked something up, then just turned its back towards me and went back into the woods. When he asked if he swears on his dead relatives' lives that he saw a werewolf in real life, he didn't budge. He was adamant that that was what he saw. I guess he moved from Bray Road to Lyons, Ron said. It didn't bother me at all. I was like, wow, now I know where he's staying. 2 weeks later, Ron said he saw the beast again. The same thing happened as the first time he saw it. It walked out of the woods and quickly returned. Ron has a brother that lives on Bowers Road, which is near Bray Road, so he had heard plenty of stories about the beast. He said that he kind of believed them, but now he's actually seen the beast, which is bigger and hairier than he could have imagined. Ron will never doubt the story of the beast of Bray Road again. Could this area be dealing with a real-life werewolf, or could the creature just in fact be a misidentified animal such as a large grey wolf or maybe a large dog? While not common in the southern part of the state, wolves are occasionally found in Woolworth County and nearby areas. Or is it perhaps just a hoax or mass hysteria? What do you guys think? Do you believe in werewolves, or have you seen anything weird yourself? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next video.